Get down. Go and lie down. Go on. Go and lie down. Sorry about that. For some reason, the cable had come out the microphone. Hi, everyone. Look at my colour. Get down. Just as I say that, it changes when I put my hands up. Yeah, the colour's back in my face. I have been ill for about 4 or 5 days. Today's the first day. Where's the desktop audio on? Hi everyone. Right, okay. I'll start again. So yeah, today's the day, the first day that I haven't felt like I'm dying for about 5 days. I've been coughing and spluttering and all sorts. It's been horrible, but then a lot of people in my area have got this sort of winter bug, so it was inevitable I was gonna get it. Tonight is a little bit different to my normal Tuesday live stream. I don't think I did a live stream last week either, so I've got to catch up on that. Or did I? I can't remember. Last week is a blur to me. But tonight, the people of Wire the Burn over at Reddit, one of the subreddits over there, have asked me to do an Ask Me Anything, and there's, I believe, questions coming in right now. Now, the way I'm going to do this, is, yeah, the questions are coming in right now. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to have it up here on the left-hand side like that, and I'm going to answer the questions basically to the video, so we can see which question I'm answering. To those people on the chat in YouTube, if you go over to Reddit, if you're on Reddit, you can ask me a question on there. Let me just put the link into the chat. Yes, I did cancel last week, Nicky's just mentioned. So there's the link to the Reddit link. So if you want to ask me any questions over at Reddit, just register over there. It'll only take a few minutes. And you can ask me questions over there on that stream. So I will see the chat on the YouTube chat as well, so I can see what you're saying. But I've got like 3 different screens and 4 different things open at the moment. So I'm going to be able to do this. And there you go. That's what tonight's stream is going to be all about. Going forward, I'm going to do my regular weekly stream this week on Thursday. I have got... Where's my adorable dog? She's going and lying down, Ian. Somebody's just asked. So I'm going to do a live stream on Thursday to make up for the one no live stream last week. And obviously, so I'll do 2 this week. I might do another one on Sunday as well. That's this week's plan anyway. Now I'm actually back to full fitness. You've had the flu as well. Welcome back. I don't think it was the flu, Deep Thought. I think it was just one of those winter chest infection sort of things. Right, let's head over to Reddit. See how we're doing over here. So. Broadcast via live stream. Thank you for that, FTF thumb. Okay, how are people in the UK reacting? If it's all, this is a 3-parter by the look of it. We had a few questions posted by people who couldn't get out of work, so I'll drop them here. From Martini Meow. Do you know of Roman Light, an English-speaking French participant in yellow vests? I've heard the name, but that's all. I've heard the name. I probably would have looked into it over the last 4 or 5 days more, but like I say, I'm ill at the moment, or I have been ill, and men will know. Man flu is terrible. Man flu is terrible. Women don't understand. They never get as sick as we do. I'll get in trouble for saying that. So yeah, I probably would have found out about him more over the last 5 days, but I've heard the name. Not much else, I'm afraid. So that's a great first question, isn't it? And that goes on to talk about, Roman mentioned the name of a researcher who's been developing ROC concept. Can you make out the name? No. I'll look into it though. I will look into it, and if I find anything out, Martini Mail, I'll come back to the AMA and drop it in the reply to that question. Any comment on this creepy sounding stuff? In 57-second video, the UK government is asking everyone to report any suspicious activities. 3 examples of this video. I can't show it because it's on YouTube and I'll get a copyright strike. I haven't seen it, but they are doing all sorts of strange things at the moment. The UK government are. I've no doubt that at some point tonight, the Integrity Initiative's name is going to come up, and I'll get into that more then with regards to what they're doing. Hi everyone in the YouTube chat. Alright, just checking everything over there is okay. How are people in the UK reacting, if at all, to Venezuela wanting its gold back from London? It depends. It depends on what you mean by how people in the UK are reacting. If it's people like that and me, then we're jumping up and down and shouting and screaming about it, because they've actually, I think this is the 2nd time now that they've refused to give Venezuela their gold. I think in total it comes to £1.4 million worth of gold that they've tried to withdraw from the Bank of England in the last few months, and the Bank of England have just refused, even though the United Nations, I think, still recognise Venezuela as, you know, Maduro was president of Venezuela. It's only those handful of countries that have come out and said that they recognise this other guy who's never got more than 100,000 votes in an election. So if they've heard about it and they're interested in it, like I am, they're jumping up and down and shouting about it. The problem is, none of the media are talking about it, and none of the media are really having anybody on from the other side, from my side of things, to give, you know, the other side, give the truth with regards to it. I mean, it's, people have said it's tantamount to theft. I'm not sure whether it's tantamount to theft because they're just withholding it because they're saying that they don't recognise the president. There are precedents set in history throughout this. They've done it many times, but I think it's disgusting. People like me who know the truth think it's disgusting as well, and we're all jumping up and down and shouting and screaming about it, but nobody in the mainstream media is talking about it at all. And we'll get more onto Venezuela. I've done plenty of videos on Venezuela. I'm no doubt it's a hot topic at the moment. But yeah, they're not really reacting to it at all. At least the media aren't. Okay, what do you think made the 3rd video go viral? Yeah, I put an intro to this for people in the YouTube chat. This is basically my background. In 2016, I was an internet marketer around the time of the US election with 850 plus fake Facebook bot accounts running on US and UK proxies. I think I had some in Romania as well, which I think may be more than the entire Russian troll farm, which had Mueller indicted. I believe that is the facts. I believe that I personally, me and a partner had more fake Facebook accounts working around the time of the election than the Russian troll farm that was indicted in the Mueller Russia inquiry. So I know a lot about bots, and who they were calling Russian bots were not Russian bots. They were internet marketing. It was an internet marketing campaign. I said as Brexit and Trump were happening, I sought out independent sources. So I knew that the media at the time, as most people were aware, was not trustworthy, and we're going to tell the truth. We're not going to tell the truth as to why we got Brexit and why we got Trump. So I sought out independent news online. I found TYT, then Jimmy Dore, Carl Kalinsky, and all these other people like Mike Figueroa and Abby Martin and others, and a whole list of others who were doing the news not just well and truthfully and honestly, but also in an entertaining way as well. And I sort of got hooked on it. It was like a drug to me, having this wealth of information come at me. But I watched over the following year, 18 months, as these internet truth tellers, as I call them, had their traffic restricted and had their source of income attacked by a YouTube apocalypse, and it was horrible. It was heartbreaking for them because these people were just, you know, trying to earn a living by actually telling the truth, and I don't think any of them had dreams of being rich or famous or anything like that. They just felt like they wanted to provide a service, or they had to. One day Trump made a tweet about the NHS. He lied 7 or 8 times in it. I got mad. I think I was hungover at the time as well, so I uploaded a video, and then another one the next day, and then the next day I uploaded a third video which got 97,000 views. As I said, it was a riddle with mistakes, but that's when I had to make the decision, right, okay, do I want to do this? Do I want to stop what I'm doing and doing this? And that's when I did. So that's the background to that question that F-Film has just asked me. What do you think the third video, what do you think made the third video go viral? As an internet marketer, did you have some technical tricks to help you push it? What's your most heavily shared video? So the thing that made the third video go viral, but that was the video that I did in defense of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore, I think, had just started doing his live streams. He did one on the State of the Union, and then he did one on the Saturday. And around that time, there was a lot of people on Facebook, in the Facebook groups that I was an internet marketer in with my bot accounts. I could see people weren't happy. I was in a lot of progressive groups, a lot of Facebook groups at the time, which no doubt some of you were members of. Bernie 2020, we are Bernie 2020. Bernie Kratz was another one that was very very popular back then, and there were other there were probably about 200 Bernie accounts alone, Bernie groups alone on Facebook. And I could see what they were talking about, and I could see they were all talking about the same thing that I thought. I thought, this is not right. I felt like, at the time, as if Jimmy Dore was being pushed out of TYT after they'd got this big investment. And I made the third video and basically encapsulated. What I did was encapsulated people's feelings who felt like that what they felt wasn't being said on the screen, and that's what made it go viral. Now, like I say, it was riddled with mistakes, but the general feeling of the video, and I wasn't taking it serious at the time, remember, either. I thought maybe, you know, I can do a few of these, and then sold my book on, you know, Russiagate being BS after, you know, 4 or 5 videos or something. That's what I was going to use it for. I had no ambitions of actually, you know, jumping in, but I'd seen how these independent media people like Kyle and Jimmy and Mike had their income just, I mean, stopped all completely at one stage at the height of apocalypse. And I thought, okay, I'll add my voice to it. So I jumped into it, but I think the reason that it went viral is because it encapsulated a feeling. As for, did I have any technical tricks? No. I posted it on the Tuesday. On the Friday, I think somebody with a blue check mark was started talking about it and asking questions because they didn't realise who this Jeffrey Katzenberg was. Jeffrey Katzenberg being the Democratic kingmaker who basically had organised this. He was the middleman between TYT and this $25 million investment or whatever they had. The reason why it went viral was because of the content. It wasn't because of anything I didn't share it anywhere. I didn't do it with any tricks. It just went viral because I think I was a new account as well, and that helped with the algorithm. I wasn't pulled back and restricted because I think basically what had happened is because my video was talking about a situation that a lot of people were talking about at the time, it got associated or sort of like the next up video to one of TYT's videos, and that's what made it go viral. It wasn't anything I did. What is your most heavily shared video? The most heavily shared video is actually not that one. It's the other one. It's the second most popular one I did, the one on Nish Kumar, who, when he was on Newsnight, and they were all up in arms at the time in the media about the Khashoggi incident. And Nish Kumar was saying, listen, it shouldn't taken this. We should have, you know, distanced ourselves from Saudi Arabia long ago. That's the most heavily shared video because it's indicative of Newsnight in the UK. The only truth you get talked on there is by comedians and your regular guests. You actually don't get it with regards to the politicians, I've noticed. Scientist 34 again says, hi Gordon, glad you could make it to the Ask Me Anything. Do you think there is a strong enough movement in Britain to overcome the oligarchy that is controlling things there as they do here in America too? I think there will be massive pushback from those in power who won't want to yield the people. I think you're absolutely correct, and I am expecting this strong movement to actually gain power. I've been talking a lot recently, not just because our media isn't talking about it, but the Yellow Vest movement in France. And it's spreading. And there are pockets of resistance and pockets of unrest coming up all over the place. And you can see that not only are the media not covering it at home, they're not covering the unrest at home as, or not covering the Yellow Vest protest the proper way at home. Instead, they're trying to move it on to, hey, it's all these far-right extremists, when it's not. It's people from across the spectrum who are unhappy. But it's blackout coverage on what's going on in France. Now, if you've seen the videos that I've seen of what's going on in France, especially if you follow independent journalists like Vanessa Beeley, who has been posting videos about this on Twitter and YouTube, and RT UK and RT America, they are showing the violence in France. They are showing the unrest, whereas the mainstream media aren't. And you have to ask the question, if there was the same sort of unrest at the moment in Venezuela, would the cameras be turned on then? You bet your ass they are. So you can see how scared they are for this to actually happen. There is no doubt about it in my mind that they are not showing the France Yellow Vest movement the way RT have and other independent journalists have, and they are doing it specifically not to actually give people ideas. Hey, we could do this. They're not giving us a Brexit. They keep kicking the can down the road. They're never going to give us Brexit. You know that, don't you? And see, I've said all along that we're not going to get a Brexit. I've said all along that even before the result of the last referendum, the day before, I said it's a pointless referendum. You can't have an in-out referendum without defining what out is first. Otherwise, you end up with in a load of bureaucratic paperwork, which is exactly what's happened. So when they eventually do extend Article 50, which I think they will do soon, people are going to be pissed in this country, and the press and the media and the establishment know it. They already are pissed. But when they do extend Article 50, which I think they will do shortly, people are going to be out in the streets. And I don't think that the media are showing the France movement, especially, or the movement in France, as they normally would do. Remember, they usually would Hollywood this up and have cameras all over the place, but they're not at the moment. They would be on the streets if it was Venezuela or elsewhere. So yeah, that's what I think. I think there is a strong enough movement in Britain to overcome it. Now, whether it can or not is a different matter, because it's obviously a really powerful foe who are trying to stop Jeremy Corbyn getting into power at the moment. With regards to America, there's a strong enough movement but the problem in America is healthcare. You haven't got healthcare. If you get on the streets, you lose your healthcare. You lose your job in America, you lose your healthcare. You know, people in France, if they lose their job and they break their leg, they can still get to hospital that day, the next day, and get treated and it not cost them anything extra. Whereas in America, healthcare is everything, and I think this is one of the ways that, well, it's known. It's obvious. This must be one of the reasons. One of the reasons why they're not giving people in America Medicare for all is to keep people quiet. So yeah, there's a strong enough movement in Britain, but I think it's going. I said last week or the week before, I'm waiting for a flare up when that that French guy who got hit, who lost his eye, I think he was blinded in one eye, who was one of the spokespeople. I thought that might be the flare up, that might be the spark that actually sent it into orbit with regards to mass protests. We'll see. I'm waiting for it. There's definitely a strong enough movement, and the movement behind Jeremy Corbyn will get behind it as well, because he's, well, the establishment are petrified of him, and Tulsi, as we found out recently. Hi to people in the YouTube chat, by the way. Nikki M, I've heard about leaked audio of Corbyn being disparaging about a people's vote. Let's hope he did. Let's hope he did. It's nonsense. Okay. If a second Brexit referendum, this is Ronin 2089. If a second Brexit referendum happened in the UK, would the Remain win? No. All medias in my country, France, try to push the idea as if all Brits were regretting it from day one. Yes, you are correct, Ronan. No, I don't think Remain would win a second referendum. I think for every person who has changed their mind one way, there's a person who's changed their mind the other. I think that people are wise to the fact that the establishment and the media have been fear-mongering a no-deal Brexit, as they call it, which is not a no-deal Brexit. It's a Brexit under World Trading Organisation rules. We would be trading with the world basically the same way as America and Australia do. That's what that means. That's what that no-deal Brexit means. They've been fear-mongering and trying to sway public opinion, but the opinion polls seem to not have budged. They're about the same as they were back in 2016. My argument against a second referendum, even though I think it's inevitable we are going to get one, my argument against it is, okay, fine. What happens if it's the same result? Are you going to quit your whinging and your whining then? Of course not. You're going to want a third referendum, aren't you? And likewise, if Leave loses, they're going to want a third referendum. You know, the only way that you can see, this is another point that people don't make with regards to Brexit enough. George Galloway makes this point all the time. Brexit hasn't happened yet. How can you have a second referendum when you haven't implemented the fucking results of the first one? Pardon my French. Sorry if you're not allowed to swear on Reddit, although I think you probably are. But yeah. It makes no sense. You know, not to mention if they lose another referendum, you know, they will blame it on Russia, as George Galloway again said. Yeah, I think Remain would win. And I think that the media are trying to push the idea that we will vote. They're trying to sway opinion, is what they're doing. How much does fake news media exacerbate the bot problem, says Bernie 2020 Waterloo? I think I'm pretty good at maths. So to give you an honest answer in a percentage, how much does the fake news media exacerbate the bot problem? I would say by about 10 million%. And that's honestly. Yes, they're bots. Yes, there are bots run by state actors. But the thing is, the bot problem is not Russian. Yes, there are Russian bots, but the bot problem isn't Russian. If you want an example of the bot problem, just go and look at Correct the Record. Just go and look at Share Blue, or just go and look at any of these other think tanks and organisations and places in America that have got these people working for Hillary Clinton and all those other assholes in the Democratic Party. That's where your bots are. Who was it that was caught? There was a politician in America that was caught buying, not just buying followers, but buying an army of bots to actually, promote positive stories about her. That's where the bot problem is. So the bot problem is rampant. And to be fair to, I mean, I haven't been on Facebook for over a year now, so I don't know. I cancelled my account after the Cambridge Analytica thing, but they were getting better with their, you know, finding out whether your account was a bot or not. That's why we needed so many. I mean, when I first started posting on Facebook, we only needed about 20 accounts, 20 Facebook accounts, because you could post 1,000 times a day, 1,000 links a day. But their algorithm got better and better and better and better, so you had to do more and more and more with your bots to make it look like a real person. It was a game of cat and mouse. Constantly. We were constantly trying to stay ahead of the algorithm, and they were constantly trying to change the algorithm to cancel out what we were doing to get around there. We always found a way around it. We always did. I mean, at one stage, I was spoofing the New York Times. I was spoofing an article from the Washington Post, because the reason you spoof creditable. Okay, let's give you it in full. This is what the bot problem really is. That's what I'm trying to answer the question is. It's not a Russian bot problem. It's a internet marketing and Western governments and Western NGOs problem. That's what it is. That's the people who have the most bots. One of the ways we got round them banning, they didn't just used to ban the accounts, because we used to obviously link through to our own websites and get them reading articles and clicking stuff to get money. So what they would do then was, if they found out that we were spamming, they would ban the website in total. Complete website. So people would then have to get their website and export it and import it to another place, and then it was a ball ache. So all we used to do was we used to spoof the link. So Facebook would follow it, and if it was a Facebook bot, we did it through redirects and all sorts. But if it was a Facebook bot, it would go through to a Washington Post or New York Times page. It would actually look as if we were sharing a New York Times article or Washington Post article. But to anybody else, a real person, we would have a redirect that it would go through to our spoof sort of website. And the amount of times that Facebook banned our page because of spamming. But what Facebook didn't realise was they were actually banning the Washington Post page that we had spoofed, not our own websites. So this is just one example of the way the internet marketers get round these algorithm changes by these social. They'll never ever win. The social media companies will never win. Internet marketers will always be 1 or 2 steps ahead of the game. But it's getting a lot harder now to make money doing it online. You've got to really know what you're doing. I mean, I used to write scripts. I could show you one actually, though I probably haven't got the program. I used to write scripts and write something called a spin, which I would write. So I would have a sentence. So I'd have an article that I want people to go and look at, and I would have a center that I would write 4 or 5 different sentences to post. And then I would write a spin, so it would extract words out and then put words in. You couldn't tell it was a bot. You couldn't tell it was a bot. I could spot other people's bots, no problem, but you couldn't tell my accounts were bots. That's why we had so many, because other people were losing hundreds at a time. I think we lost 50 or 60 at one time, but it was never that bad because of what we used to make our bots do. And the blue check marks on Twitter haven't got a clue what a bot is. They haven't got a clue. Louise Mensch calls people that she's actually conversing and having a conversation with a bot. You can't have a conversation with a bot. It's literally a bot. It's just a computer program. But, you know. So yeah, fake news exacerbates the bot problem by about 10 million %. A long-winded answer to your question, Bernie. Hey Gordon, have you had a chance with that awful man flu? Thank you very much, Hoot Burns. You feel my pain. To see Tulsi's kick-off speech, if so, thoughts on it and her candidacy. Hoot Burns, I said in January 2017, I said I'd like to see Tulsi Gabbard become the next president of the United States. She's been my pick ever since then. And I can't remember. I can't remember the exact time, but it was somewhere in January. I heard her talk about. That's when I think she started talking about. I started really ramping up the speech on the anti-war. And as anybody who follows my channel, I'm vehemently pro-peace. War solves nothing. But I think it was back then that I started seeing who she was, and that's when I said I like her. And obviously, you know, seeing her get more and more exposure, especially to alternative media, is great. And seeing the establishment try their hatchet jobs on her. The latest one, I've got a video dropping tomorrow on the latest smear. I mean, you know, and it's lazy as well. It's not just the way they're attacking her. It's lazy because they're attacking her with just discredited people and things that we can just laugh at. And it's going to get worse. And the video tomorrow is all about how I've seen this. I've seen this with Jeremy Corbyn. I've seen it. And what's going to happen is they will keep on and on and on and on. And then people will start going to hear Tulsi in her own words. And as soon as people start hearing Tulsi in her own words, watch out. Because she is going to drop bombs in those democratic debates. Peace bombs. Bombs of truth on the bombs of war, if you like. It's going to be awesome. She's going to try and bring every question back to it because she knows how vehemently anti-war the American public are. And she's also Medicare for all was good. So yeah, I love Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's the best pick. I think she's better than Bernie, much better. She's as good as Bernie back home, and I think she's far better than him on foreign policy. So yeah, I was well behind Tulsi very early on. Hey Gordon, it's good to see you back, says Magic 5. Magic Thights. When do you think the DUP will walk away from the Tory coalition? Oh. See, I was of the feeling it was going to be around October last year that it would happen. But so far they've stuck with her. And they've got, you know, after all, they've got 1.5 billion reasons to, and they're all pounds. Are they? Is the question. You know, I thought they were going to withdraw their support back in October, and then I was, you know, I thought that they would draw the report after the vote of no, at the vote of no confidence. I thought they might do then, but they haven't. The more I think about it, the more I think, you know what, they might not. They might not. I certainly can't think of anything anything that's going to happen in the future that is going to cause them, because the Tories are going to try and extend this as much as possible and kick it down the road, and while they do that, the DUP are going to keep giving them the support. It's when the Tories come out and make a decision that's the problem. It's when they actually say, right, okay, here's the deal. That's the problem. And if they do have a deal that DUP are not happy about, then DUP will take away their support then. But I don't think we're going to get a deal. So it's an absolute shit show, that Brexit. It really is. Debacle of it. Duncan McKeown in the YouTube chat just said, Louise Mensch is batshit crazy. So, people knowing who Louise Mensch is. Excuse me. Scientist 34 again says, lots of people are opposed to the regime change in Venezuela, but it seems the options of the people don't matter much. Do you think it would be possible for progressives to sway opinion of enough citizens in the US or in other countries so that we can prevent the regime change? Yes, I do. We've got to be. I've been saying you've got to jump up and shout and scream about this. We have. We can't let this carry on. There's no plan for afterwards. Well, the plan for afterwards is to just let it be a disaster. That's the plan for afterwards. People say that America hasn't got a plan for what happened after in Libya, or what happened after in Iraq, or what happened after in Syria. No, no, no. They do have a plan. The plan is they don't fucking care. If it collapses, great. That's the plan. Do you think? And that's what we've got to concentrate on. That's what we've got to hammer home. That's what our message has got to keep being. We can't. You know, these are. One of the main reasons Venezuela is in the situation that it is in. Yes, they've made mistakes, but I've covered this in videos. There've been mistakes made with good intentions. One of the reasons why they're in such a bad mess is because A, it looks like the oil price was manipulated to give them the good times, and then manipulated to drop to put them in the shit in the first place. There's been an economic warfare. But then after that, after they've been put in the shit, as a lot of people think, they've then been sanctioned to hell and back. You know, sanctions are the same now or comparable to Nicaragua in the 1980s. That's one of the reasons why the country is in such trouble. If you look at Bolivia, they have a very similar constitution. I think it may be a Bolivarian. You know, they have a very Bolivarian way of life, a Bolivarian government, and I think their economy is increasing 6% GDP year on year or something like that over the last 10 years. It's certainly up there. It's, you know, I think it could be between 4 and 6%. I heard 6% in the recent years. So that's what Venezuela could do if it wasn't being constricted and squeezed and choked, and have the economy just the life of the economy choked the living shit out of because of these economic sanctions and embargoes. They couldn't even, Telesur couldn't even pay Abby Martin. They couldn't even send money to Abby Martin in America. Didn't matter how they tried to change it, they couldn't do it. You know, that nearly caused the finish of Empire Files, and thankfully people stepped up and crowdfunded the show. This is what we've got to be jumping up and shouting about. We've got to be jumping up and shouting about. Listen, this has happened before. Do we want another Libya? Do we want another Iraq? Do we want another Afghanistan? 17 years, Afghanistan. 17 years. That's the longest ever war in history. Ever. How many Americans right now, if you ask them in the street, what's the longest US war in history, how many of them would be able to tell you it's Afghanistan? Now, I know, you know, a lot of people don't think that the intelligence of the general populace of America is that great, but I blame the education system for that. But very few of you are going to be able to tell you, going to be able to say Afghanistan. Most of them are going to be saying World War II or something else. This is what we've got to keep jumping up and shouting about. We've got to keep jumping up and shout, and really jumping up and shout about the humanitarian consequences of this, and the famine, and the people who are dying as a result of these sanctions. Sanctions are economic warfare. I know they might be pretty, let's sanction them. You might as well just say, let's kill some poor people. And this is what we really need to jump up and down about. So yes, I think we can. And to be honest, even if I think we couldn't, I'd still try. That's why we should all do it. What is Labour's response to the Integrity Initiative, says the very unfortunate. Labour's response has been excellent. Just a swig of my coffee. The next day after it was recorded, after it was in the Daily Record, three of them stood up. I've seen, I think, 5 or 6 of them now stand up in the House of Commons and addressing Alan Duncan. I've seen them all tearing him into pieces. I've seen Alan Duncan, and I've documented it in videos, you know, deflecting by not answering questions and basically doing McCarthyist smear of whoever's on the other side. And there's one guy above all. Jeremy Corbyn's been great on it as well. He's been asking questions and jumping up and down. And there's one guy above all who's been fantastic, and that's Chris Williamson, from who's Labour MP for Derby. He's been wonderful. Here's the problem: their response has been great, but the media have got a total silence on it. They've got a total silence on it, which just, hey, of course they have. You know, they're up to their necks in it. They're complicit in it. So yeah, Labour's response has been great. It's been wonderful. I want to see more of them jumping up and shouting about it, to be honest. But they've been pretty good. They haven't been saying it was all against Labour, because it wasn't. There were attacks on all MPs, Conservative as well, that the Integrity Initiative tweeted out. But that's not the main thing. The main thing is the, you know, this is Mockingbird on steroids. And to hear Chris Williamson actually say Mockingbird on steroids in an interview with RT is great. You know, their response has been fantastic. Media, that's where the problem is, because they are not covering it at all, because obviously they are, like I say, up to their necks in it. Covered that one. Genriaku says you should do more interviews, debates with political commentators from the other end of the spectrum. The goal isn't to win the debate, it's to get the word out again and gain a greater audience. Sticking to your own bubble fun as it is doesn't help us. Genriaku, you've got a good point. I don't debate there. I will never do a debate, ever. Debates are the lowest form of conversation, in my opinion. Because in my opinion, conversations shouldn't have a winner and a loser. They should be conversations. With regards to talking to people, then it depends on who the person is from the other side of the spectrum. I've got somebody from the other side of the spectrum actually lined up. I did speak to him before Christmas. I've got to get back in touch, because obviously with me not being well the last 5 days, I haven't been able to. I need to set up an interview. I've only done a few so far, but yeah, I have got people. This guy is on the right. He classes himself as a conservative, but he's a proper conservative. You know, he's not one of these rah Trump cheerleaders. He's a proper conservative with valued opinions, and just really touching on something else that I've said recently in a video. Just because people are on the other side of the fence, it doesn't mean that I won't talk to them. I love talking to them. I'd have a conversation with any of them, really would. Like Alex Jones, I really don't mind. The problem I've got, the problem I would have, is with people like, you know, people on the cable news, people on the right on Fox, for instance, although they tell more truth than CNN. People on the right, such as Ben Shapiro. You know, those sort of people who are just in it for the argument, and they will flip-flop on positions depending on which way the wind's blowing. Not so much Ben Shapiro, I'm thinking Ann Coulter in that instance. Those sort of people I wouldn't. But other people, then they're usually independent journalists on the right, and there are them. I will be talking to them, and hopefully, that reminds me, I must try and get back in touch with them tomorrow. 5 now, 6 now says, thank you for doing this, Amy. I loved your interview with him. He's great, Ian is. He was accused of being a Russian bot. It was funny, true, and a real shocker. No wonder your subscribers ask you to do interviews. You're wonderful at it. Thank you. I like you. 4 now, 5 now, 6 now. Will you be doing any more interviews, and who would you like to interview next? I have a big long list. I'm not going to give the list away, but I have a big long list of about 30 people I want to talk to. Most of them they're in the public eye. Most people will know who they are. Certainly if you watch the news, and certainly if you watch American news as well. Yeah, I'm going to have more interviews on. It's something I'm getting better at as well. I'm total amateur, but I'm really starting to give it more thought, and hopefully I've honestly thought about setting up another channel just for the interview side of things. I've honestly thought about that. We'll see, but I'm going to do more. Okay, we've seen that one. Stop. Will you be doing any commentary on President Trump's State of the Union address tomorrow? I thought it was tonight. I thought it was tonight. Yeah, it's tonight, February the 5th. Will I? No. No. I'll tell you why. Once I've got this back to where it should be. Because it'll be about 2 o'clock in the morning here. And I'll be knackered. And I'm assuming with it being, so I'll be knackered. I won't. I'll be high. So I'll watch. I'm assuming Jimmy Dore will do a stream, so I'll watch his rather than do it myself. If it wasn't 2 o'clock in the morning, then I would. But 2 o'clock in the morning, I won't. I'm not going to be good at. I'm going to make no sense at 2 o'clock in the morning at all. Paste. Rebecca Miller asking, hi Rebecca, how are you? I haven't had a chance to read your poems that you sent me yet, but I have seen them. I will get back to them. I was a poorly boy. You're my current source of reputable news, thank you. And I was wondering what important legislation has inevitably been buried by Brexit. Important legislation, well, I can think of important legislation news that's invariably been buried by Brexit. And that's that article, what's it, Article 13 or whatever it is from the EU. They haven't been talking about that because they've been talking about Brexit. I think that's probably the one that, a piece of legislation really that's been missed. Because the way the wording was at the end of last year, that legislation, it pretty much would cease YouTube existing. They wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't know. YouTube wouldn't be able to have anything uploaded to their platform if the wording was the same. So the legislation was due to go through in January, but I'm assuming it was put on hold, or it's still being talked about. So that's the only piece of legislation. But even that hasn't gone through. Now, I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything that's gone through and that Brexit has overshadowed. There's been plenty of reports, obviously, and plenty of bad news that Brexit has overshadowed, but nothing legislative-wise, I don't think. Let's just jump into the chat, into the YouTube chat. Article 13, where Rebecca Miller says, yeah, yeah. So I don't think it's gone through because the wording was awful. I mean, it's just awful. It was going to stop YouTube existing the way it was worded. We'll see. Let me just check these messages on Reddit to make sure I'm. I've missed a load of direct messages from the chat. Hopefully I've not messed anything up. Gordon is answering via YouTube. I see he hasn't posted any answers to Reddit yet. One problem is that I'm not sure how I can listen to YouTube now. I can hear the results. I'm at work. Yeah, I think I caused some confusion with people because I've. This is the truth. Honestly, I don't like writing. I don't like writing. I've got used to talking, which is really weird. It used to be the other way around. I didn't like talking. That's why I wrote. But yeah, now I just like talking. I've no doubt I'll come back and I'll answer a few questions. Yeah, I'm up to date now with the questions. I can always come back and jump in and answer the questions afterwards on the AMA and type them in. But I thought it'd be pretty cool being able to live stream it, and the video will stop up as well. Remember, so when I finish this live stream, the video will go into a video, and then you can just link to the video, and people can just play the video and obviously see the questions. That's the way I thought anyway. I thought it'd be a nice, if it worked, you know. If it doesn't, we've asked nothing. We're up to date on that. Hi everybody in the YouTube chat. Yeah, it was a different one tonight. With this Reddit thing, but they asked me over at Where the Burn, and I felt obliged because I think the one Hoot Burns, I think I've certainly known they've been an activist for a couple of years. I remember that I'm sure I remember Hoot Burns from Facebook groups back in 2016. So I know it's going to be people who are certainly on my side of the political conversation, if you like. Rebecca Miller, YouTube would, but they would only let reputable sources upload, like big news companies, for example, if Article 13 stopped them. Yeah, it wouldn't stop CNN or Fox or anybody like that from uploading, but it would stop just normal people. I'll have to look into that because I know that was due to be. There was a meeting about it in January, so I'll have to look into that. Because that's a big one, that Article 13 is. Duncan McKeown says, I hear all the advertising from internet journalism is now migrating to Google and Facebook, time to break up the duopoly. I hate having to rely on it. I hate having to rely on them for a source of income. I hate having to rely on them for this advertising income. And there's a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't like them. And second of all, they can take it away at any time. And I'll have no recourse. You know, I've seen it happen to friends of mine. It happened to Jamal Thomas. Jamal Thomas, 1 month, they just said, you've violated one of our rules. We're withholding payment. And he said, why? He said, yeah, and they said, no. Look at the terms of and conditions. You can't ask us why. And they just withheld his money for a month. It was thousands of dollars. Just withheld it for a month. They wouldn't tell him why. They wouldn't tell him what rule he broke. They wouldn't tell him anything. Just withheld the money. You know, that sort of shit could get people evicted in other circumstances. That's sort of, you know, there are people out there who, if these large companies did that sort of thing too, for no apparent reason, would get them evicted, would cause them hardship, would you know, some people rely, it's their source of income, you know, it's their main source of income. I don't like the fact that it is, and I want to get away from it. But until, you know, until I can get to the stage where I've got sufficient support, then I have to. But it's not going to be forever. They're going to deplatform me sooner or later. Sooner or later, they're going to deplatform us all. Duncan McKeown has just said the EU is supposedly looking at it, Article 13, but I imagine that is all they will do is look. Now they have to try and do so. They have to try and get round. They can't pass it in the form that it's in. They can't. You know, it's a ridiculous. When I looked at it, there was a load of furore about it at the time, and everybody was saying, "Oh, Article 15, you know, they're going to ban memes and all this." I just looked at the text of it, and I just looked at it, and I thought, "There's no way that they can implement this. If they implement this, then YouTube will cease to exist." And the next thing you know, YouTube make a statement saying, "Can you get this changed, please? Because in its current form, that means that nobody can upload videos to YouTube." So they saw it the same way I did. And I knew that they were going to try and change it. But it's how much they can change it. Remember, the only reason that they're doing this, is a giveaway to the corporations. That's what Article 13 is, from what I can tell. Article 13 is another way to get money flowing to the corporations. You know, from people who are using pictures of theirs or copyrighted, blah, 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 blah. You know, as Article 13 would stand, I wouldn't be able to do this live stream now because I've got a logo there. I've got somebody else's logo on the screen. Wouldn't be able to have that. So therefore, it would have to go through manual review. It's a joke. Article 13 is a joke. It wasn't as. It's not as big as people were making out because, and why? Because the way it's written is written obviously by people who don't know what they're talking about, and what the implications are of what they're doing. Bureaucrats in the EU, in other words. Another reason why I don't like the EU. Print Me Up says, do you think your views on the voices on the video of Abbott Bruce question time lost your subscribers? Yeah, I know it did. I know it did. There was one guy who. There was one guy who made a comment literally to say, and I know he'd been with me for months and months and months and months and months and agreed with me on everything and thought I was great. He made a comment to say, it's the first time I've ever disagreed with you, but that's it. See ya. And I'm unsubscribing. I thought, shit, well, there's a guy who's either been married a bunch of times or not at all. You know? That's it. You disagree with somebody once, and that's the end of the relationship. You know, it's not as if I was saying anything bad in that video. It's just I had a different point of view based on the facts that I had at hand and what we knew to be true at the time. I had a lot of backlash on it. People are not going to agree on me all the time, but I'm not doing anything with an agenda here. I'm just saying things as I see it. Diane Abbott is a terrible speaker. She had a bad performance. And sometimes you've just got to say, look, it was a bad performance. You know, with regards to what happened before, they're blowing that out of proportion. Out of proportion, believe me. But I had a lot of grief for it, so what I've thought is, right, okay, the general comment was Navarra media did this way better than you, Gordon. Go and watch it and then you'll see. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and watch Navarra media, who is, by the way, about 50 people with hundreds of thousands of pounds of backing behind them. Whereas I'm a guy. So I'm going to go and watch the Navarra media thing and we'll see. We'll see whether my opinion changes. But, I mean, you know, I'm not going to be dogmatic about it. I know it cost me subscribers there. But I'm not here to cheer on Labour. I'm not here to defend people who you think are being attacked. I'm not here to shit on Trump. I'm not here to attack May. I'm not here to do any of those. All I'm here is to look at the facts at hand and then give you my evaluation, honest evaluation based upon those facts as I see them. because this is what the news doesn't do. That's why I'm doing it. And for people to disagree with me once and then say I'm unsubscribing and piss off, that to me is like, well, I'm sorry, you deserve what you get then. Go back to the mainstream if you want that. You're never going to find somebody you're going to agree with 100% of the time, ever. Anywhere, in any walk of life. At least when you disagree with me, you know you disagree with me because I'm being honest about something, and that's how I truly see it, not because I have a point of view, because that's where the, you know, that's where the money's coming from, and I'm not going to bite the hand that feeds me. If anything, I should have gone the other way, because most of my supporters are actually Labour supporters and Diane Abbott supporters. So in the back of my mind, I should have said, oh shit, I can't say that bad about Diane Abbott. I've got to come out and defend her here, because my supporters are going to, they all like Diane Abbott. I can't say anything. I've got to defend Diane Abbott. As soon as I start doing that, that's it. I've lost you. As soon as I start doing that, I've lost you. You know why? Because then I'm no better than the mainstream. Got some more questions coming in. Let's have a look. Keith Durant. Hi, Keith. So what do you think of the Global Fund for Malaria refusing Venezuela medication and the ex-US ambassador and member of US National Security Council on the board of directors? Keith, I have got a ton of reading I've got to do about Venezuela tomorrow. To catch up on everything, because tomorrow is when I definitely will be finishing or rather putting together that part 2 of the Venezuela videos I did. They are trying their best to overthrow this democratically elected leader. They are trying their best to overthrow him in a coup, and I'll be covering it in a video tomorrow. As for the Global Fund for Malaria refusing Venezuela medication, yeah, that's despicable. Again, people are going to die because of that. It's just, I can't read that screen. Just me, man, right? Said this. There was a wave of younger regular people here in the US, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who were inspired to run for office after being newly awoken by Bernie Sanders and the progressive movement. Is there any similar kind of wave happening in the UK? Is there anyone up and coming that excites you? There's not a similar. I suppose the only similarity you can have with what happened over in America with regards to, you know, Justice Democrats and brand new Congress. I assume you're talking about those sort of people who ran in the primaries and Democratic primaries. It hasn't happened yet over here, but the reason it hasn't happened yet over here, I think, is because the rules within the Labour Party sort of made it almost impossible for somebody to be primaried. And as it stands at the moment, the Labour Party have got, I'm going on the Labour Party here because obviously they are meant to be our left. They're made up of about 250 MPs, of which there's probably about 100 that are good and over 100 that are bad. There are more Blairites in the party as MPs, as I see it, than there are people who I would consider passable as an MP and working for, as you said, progressive, you know, the progressive movement. That may change in the future, though, because obviously it's in the Labour Party conference in September, they changed the rules with regards to mandatory reselection, or, as it's known in America, your own party primaries, or a Democratic primary. Which is always funny. I always think that's an oxymoron. A Democratic primary, those two things actually don't work in America. You can have one or the other. You can have a primary, or you can have it Democratic. You can't do the both. It's certainly not the way the Democrats have got it set up. But yeah, with regards to up-and-comers, so there will be more primaries in the future because of the rules change, although I really wish they'd start doing this reselection very quickly. Chocolate Muna. With regards to up and comers, there is a young lady in the Labour Party who I don't really know much about, but I know that she has been touted as the next sort of big thing in the Labour Party, and that's a young lady called Laura Pidcock, I think her name is. She's just had a baby, I believe. I know she's been touted as she's young, and she's been touted as a future, you know, future leader, but I don't really know enough about her to make a judgment. The person who has impressed me the most in the Labour Party recently is Chris Williamson, and not just impressed me a little bit. He's streets ahead of all the others, because he's been streets ahead of the rest of them in the Labour Party on Venezuela. He's been streets ahead of them on the Integrity Initiative. He's been shouting and screaming about that. He was on a BBC programme the other day, and there was some woman on there who obviously, honestly, I just assumed she was just one of these political journalists from a right-wing publication, that he was dropping truth bombs about Venezuela for. Honestly, I just assumed she must work for a newspaper, because everything that she said was total BS, total, you know, corporate media line with regards to Venezuela. And Chris Williamson was the one who was having to put her straight. No, these are what the facts. The elections weren't rigged. Jimmy Carter said that they were one of the safest in the world. Or the UN sent all these election monitors, and none of them were saying that anything untoward was happening. Certainly, you know, they had their problems, but it was nothing as bad as you have in America, for instance. And then I found out afterwards, in the comments after I dropped the video, she was some Labour MP on the BBC having a discussion with another Labour MP, and they were both on opposite sides of the argument when it comes to Venezuela and what the facts were. That's your Labour Party, you know? So the Labour Party over here, although it's not as bad as in the America with the Democrats by a long way, but then the two aren't really comparable anyway. If you want to compare with the Democrats with anybody, compare them with the Conservatives, because that's who they are. They're a right-wing party. The splits, we're further along with regards to getting actually a progressive movement happening than America. With regards to up-and-comers, the person who's impressed me the most in the last year has been Chris Williamson, without a doubt. What do you make of Italy blocking the EU support for regime change in Venezuela? Will they be punished for that? It's the EU. You do something the EU don't like and they will punish you for it. Go ask Greece. Could they be forced to change their vote? They will try and force them, but I don't think the Italians will. Not that guy. I read that Spain was pressured in to go along with this regime change. I haven't really Scientist 34 again. I haven't really read too much about it, because, like I said, I've been off my feet for the last 4 or 5 days. You've got to understand that it's not just about oil. Although we all say it's all about the oil, baby, and we do when we're right. It's not just about that, because you've got to understand that sort of there's a bigger picture sort of above it, and the bigger picture is regional dominance throughout the world. For instance, Russia is a regional player. China, if you like, is a regional player. The dominant global player really are the Americans, China somewhat, but the dominant one is Americans, and they will not let anybody inflict on their hegemony. So when you hear stories of, you know, China doing trade deals with Venezuela and trying to expand their Belt and Road Initiative to incorporate, you know, South America, and trying to and you get the influence of China in Venezuela and Russia in Venezuela. That's why the Americans then stop up and go, no, we've got to do it now, because then if Venezuela and China start having an influence in South America, as Bill Maher said, the liberal missile that is Bill Maher, as Ben Norton called him, which was wonderful, you know, that's all on a minute they're fucking about in my backyard, in our backyard. And then obviously there are going to be all sorts of pressures on each individual country underneath, depending on which way the largest players, the EU, America, China, Russia, and whatever, want them to voice their opinion, shall we say? That's what it all comes down. It's not all about the oil, although it is. It's all about global power and dominance, especially in regions. I mean, remember, America are the ones who chopped up the world into AFRICOM and AsiaCom and all those military zones. You know, they haven't got all those military outposts. They haven't got, you know, bases in 159 out of 160 African countries or whatever, because to keep the peace or anything like that. No, it's all about resources. That's what it all is, resources and power. Any attempt from the mainstream media to tell you otherwise is a flat out lie, I'm afraid. Tell us the story of the NHS, the National Health Service. The very unfortunate is the most wonderful thing that I think our British government has ever given us. We have had it now for 70 years or 71 years. 1948 it came in. The man who introduced it was Clement Attlee. He faced absolute backlash at the time for introducing it, and now people look back and they rank Clement Attlee as one of the best prime ministers we've ever had, although even though most people couldn't name anything else he did. It's wonderful. Honestly, it's wonderful. If you're from America, the very unfortunate, then you are the very unfortunate in name and in nature, because yeah, your system is not about making people better. If you're America, it's about making a few people lots of money. Thank you, Intrepid 2020. Yeah, fuck those guys. Says, we do a Friday night dance party every week. What music have you found meaningful, or what is your current earworm? We'll include your choice in this week's dance party. We asked Abby Martin on her AMA and she said this. What is your favourite drug? Also, Reform or Revolution, pick one. I'm not one for dance music. I used to go to raves, they used to call them back then. Man, I'm showing my age. So, I mean, my idea of dance music is stuff like, you know, Ministry of Sound. The music I find most meaningful, the music I like the most is, first of all, a song that has a meaning. It doesn't have to go chorus, verse, bridge, or anything. Chorus, verse, bridge, or anything like that. I generally like acoustic sort of rock, if you know what I mean. My favourite bands of all time are Counting Crows. August and Everything After is my favourite album of all time. And Tonic are really good. And then you know, U2, Queen, classic. Yeah, acoustic rock. I like the sound of a guitar, and I like a song with a story. Sounds boring, I know, but we asked Abby Martin this. What is your favourite drug? That's easy. Marijuana. It is the drug that should be legal everywhere in the world. That is my favourite drug, and has been for quite some time. Let's see if there's any more come through. Back to the... Don't know how long I'm going to do this for. How long I've been going. Time now is... I've been going over an hour. Scientist 34 again says, how much of an influence is Bernie Sanders outside the United States? Do regular Britons talk about him and his stances, or are they mainly focused on local politicians like Corbyn or the ones in the ear? Most people, Scientist 34 again, it's the same in America, I am sure. Most people haven't got a clue who Bernie Sanders is. I'm sure if you were to ask, do you know who Bernie Sanders is, to 10,000 random people in a high street, half of them would say who. Because half of the people are just blind and dumb to politics, you know. They don't want to talk about it. Of the people, anybody who is politically aware knows who Bernie Sanders is over here. Anybody who is, and more and more people are becoming politically aware since Brexit and Trump, because they know that, hold on a minute, something serious went down here, and the news aren't telling us what. Let me tell you something. Before the 2016 election, the only news I got was sorry, not before, while the primaries were going on in 2016. I wasn't following them. I wasn't following Bernie or Hillary at the time really at all. I knew who he was, but I didn't know any of his policies or anything like that. I was dumb to it too, and this wasn't that long ago. It's only in the last 3 years that I have become aware. Simply because that I think it's important that people are aware of who he is, and not enough people are. So, do regular Britons talk about him? Probably not. Regular Britons who know anything about politics do, and certainly regular Britons who are engaged in Jeremy Corbyn's policies know who Bernie Sanders is. If people who are a fan of Corbyn, especially on social media, they know who Bernie Sanders is. But you got to remember, more than half, I would suggest, people in the country don't know who he is and won't care because they have no interest in politics. It's only probably about 10% of us that really are. It wasn't until long ago. I wasn't. Not sure if I constructed that sentence correct. That I wasn't interested in politics at all. As far as I was concerned, they were all as bad as each other. And you know what? We had Tony Blair and Margaret Thatcher, so I was right. Did you know the last full day the UK is going to be in the UK? March the 29th, isn't it? It's literally 40 years to the day Margaret Thatcher called the successful no confidence vote that led to her election. Ain't that wow? 40 years to the day since Margaret Thatcher called the successful no confidence vote that led to her election. I did not know that. 40 years on. Please, Gordon says 4 now, 5 now, 6 now. Please, Gordon, tell us a little bit about your book, Russiagate, the Establishment Lie, debunking the lie that blames Russia for American problems. And was there a particular incident, event, or pattern that just motivated you for you to write it? Yeah, like I say, I saw the referendum happen. And I was interested, I got interested really in politics during the 2016 referendum. That's how all it was. And after that was around June time. I think shortly after that, Hillary had bought her primary. And Trump had won his. And I started watching the debates. And I was watching the debates as a person with pretty much no knowledge of how people in America felt since the last time I was there, which was in 2008. Last time I was there in 2008, everybody was so hopeful because Obama was coming in. They were really hopeful that he was going to change lives. And if you listen to the media over here, which was pretty much the only, I knew they were all bullshit, but you would think that Obama was a saint. You would think he was wonderful. When you actually got through to independent sources of information and started listening to TYT and, Jenk and Jimmy and Kyle and Mike and all the others that I've mentioned, that's when you realised, hold on a minute, right. Okay. Everything's not as it seems. And that's when I started gaining all the information with regards to really why Trump came to power. And then I noticed something, and it was very quick after the election loss it happened. somebody mentioned this the other day to me, actually, and I think I think it might have been Graham Elwood who said this, don't quote me on it there, and he said for about a week afterwards, for about a week, they tried to blame it on something else. I can't remember what he said it was now, but I remember thinking back, thinking, yeah, that was right. And then Russia kicked in. You know, they were talking about it in the debates and what have you, but then when a week after the loss, that's when the Russiagate kicked in, and that's when I started thinking, hold on a minute. I know a bit about how the internet works, and I remember Edward Snowden and what he told us. I know that they can track what you're doing over there. If you hack somewhere, they know. They know, and they know where it came from. They will be able to point to you over there. So when they started saying that it was Russia, I started looking at and investigating, right, okay, how would they know it was Russia? That's how I started. How would they know? If Russia did really hack the DNC, how would they know? So I started researching, and that's when I started looking at people like Edward Snowden, who had revealed all the stuff with regards to X-Keyscore. And then I think around, it was probably about 6 weeks, 8 weeks after that, I saw an interview with Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore had on Bill Binney from Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity. And it all had, I mean, I always knew this isn't Russia. Russia didn't elect Trump. We knew it was because neoliberalism threw the working class fucking overboard 30 years ago. That's why Trump got into power. It had nothing to do with Russia. Anybody with a brain could see it. But the way they were desperately trying to point the finger at Russia afterwards, that's what made me think, right, okay, I'm going to start looking into this. Because at the time I had websites that I was writing for. My websites were different, although I had 2 news sites between 2016 and 2018. I had 2 news sites. I wasn't posting fake articles or anything like that. I was actually trying my best. So I started investigating it more and more. And the more I investigated it, the more I found it was bullshit. And the more gotcha, bombshell, smoking gun stories that came out, the more the quicker they were being outed as absolute false and retracted. And that's how it sort of all started. And I was writing pieces. I mean, I think, yeah. Yes, that was it. The point, you asked, was there a particular incident, event, motive? Yes, there was, and it's just came to me. You are right. The incident was Rachel Maddow. The incident was Rachel Maddow. Because Bernie supporters will remember this. Rachel Maddow did a show how Russian bots had infiltrated Bernie supporting Facebook groups. She did a big show about it. But the thing is, I knew some of the bots and some of the people that ran the Facebook groups that allegedly these bots had infiltrated. And they had massive problems with bots in these groups. Sure, they did. But it was bots run by people like me and bots from less scrupulous internet marketers who would really, you know, post a story that Trump had been endorsed by the Pope, you know, to try and get clicks on their sites. I wasn't doing that. But I knew other people that were. I was well entrenched in that. You know, I knew what a bot was. I knew where they were. I could spot them very easily. There were a lot of instances where I'd see posts in these groups and think, oh, that's so-and-so's bot from Black Hat World, I know him. And Rachel Maddow comes along and starts blaming it all on Russia. That's the point where I'm like, oh, right, okay. That was the point where I thought, I've got to get this information out there. This is bullshit. And at that point, actually, I think that was the first time I would ever be introduced to Rachel Maddow. I think this is the first time I ever watched an episode of it because people were talking about it, so I went and watched the episode. That's what motivated me to write it. Rachel Maddow's absolutely disastrous hatchet job trying to blame Bernie Sanders running Hillary Clinton close in the primaries on Russian bots. And that was the catalyst. That was the point. It was certainly around that time. Good question. me a while to get there, but hey, it was 2 years ago. I think we've done that one, haven't we? Hi Gordon, do you think what we've seen so far from the establishment is as bad as it can get in the way they've treated Jeremy Corbyn? No. How do you think they'll react if he becomes BM? I think they already have plans in place for when Corbyn becomes Prime Minister. They're going to do everything possible to stop that happening, and it's not as bad as it can get. No. Not as bad. Go and ask go and ask Tony Benn. Go and ask some of the Labour, the real socialist Labour MPs from the 70s and 80s. Go and ask them if they think, the ones that are still alive, ask them if they think this is as bad as it can get with regards to the way they treat Jeremy Corbyn. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they start undercover operations to stop him getting elected. Some would say they already have. As to how they'll react, I'm pretty sure that they will try and... I wouldn't put it past them trying to cripple the country and bring it to its knees in order to get rid of him. That's how bad I think they are. That's how scared I think they are of the Jeremy Corbyn government. Honestly, I really do. What's your thoughts on environmental degradations? Of course, climate change is a huge thing, but how can we address it? I think if we can't force the current neoliberal regimes out of power, climate change cannot be fought and humanity will suffer terribly. The people in charge must know that climate change is serious business and will affect them. Yet the greed is so intense that they cannot do anything to limit it. This is especially true in the USA. And there were other significant problems, just like Bolsonaro saying he will let companies destroy the Amazon rainforest and kick native people off their land, and huge amounts of trash in the oceans. Can progressives take power quickly enough to block these things? It doesn't seem to be happening fast enough at the moment, scientist. 34 again. It doesn't seem to be happening fast enough at the moment. You know, the IPCC report that came out that everybody talks about last year, I did a video about it. It basically said, listen, it's not too late. It's terrible, yeah, but good news, bad news, it's not too late. We can change things, and we've got 12 years to basically we've got 12 years to radically change the planet and how we live. Otherwise, your children are fucked, your grandchildren are fucked, your great-grandchildren, etc., etc. You know, if this isn't scaring people enough, what's gonna? I'm not optimistic, is the answer. I'm not optimistic, but that will not make me stop screaming and shouting about it, and it definitely won't make me lose hope. I'm just not optimistic that we're going to see a good outcome with regards to climate change. Let's face it, you know, we've had 2 years of a revolution in America that was started by Bernie. How many progressives you got? How many progressives are there in the Senate and the House? 4. Tulsi, Roe, Alexandria, Bernie. Those are your 4 progressives. And in 2 years, that's all you got. So at that rate, you know, let's say you get 5 every 2 years. So at that rate, I reckon another 10, 20 full election cycles, maybe 80 years, progressives might be able to take control of Congress. It's bad. It sounds bad, but you know what? Facts are facts. There are not enough progressives in America. There's just not. You know, I bitch and whine and complain all the time about, hey, Jeremy Corbyn's got 100 progressives. He's got 100. He's got 40% of his party behind him fully. Progressives in America, that's 4. It's not even 1%. It can be deflating. You just got to keep going and hope that something will happen, and we will get the right people in. I personally don't think that the way we'll change it is with progressives. I don't think the way forward with the climate change is to put pressure on the politicians. I don't think the best way forward with climate change is to vote in the right politicians. You know, although that's something that can be done, great. That's not the way forward. The way forward with climate change is to put your yellow vest on, get out in the street and start costing them some fucking money. That's the way we address climate change. That's it. They're not going to listen to us if we don't do this. They're not going to listen to us if we just try, you know, if we spend 4 or 5 election cycles trying to elect people in. We haven't got fucking time for it. We haven't got time. We need to get in the streets. We need to put some yellow vests on, and we need to start shutting shit down and costing them money. And until that happens, fuck all is going to get done on it. And that's my opinion. So, yes, it's really depressing that not enough progressives have been voted in America to actually do anything about this. And yes, it's really demoralising to see how you've only got 4 progressives. But the hope is, it's not the politicians that are going to fucking change the world. It's you and I. And we're going to force them to do it. Or we're going to see, you know, a repeat of the French Revolution in other countries. Yeah, that's how I feel on it. Just saw a little comment from the YouTube chat. I'm sorry to everybody on YouTube. I haven't been talking to you like I normally do. Like I say, I will be back on Thursday to do my normal weekly live stream to do that. Thoughts on Redacted tonight. And before I answer that, Nikki has just mentioned the Extinction Rebellion, going back to the climate change question. That's the sort of movement that's going to change things. Thoughts on Redacted tonight, says Seaborn Wolf. My thoughts on Redacted tonight are this. Lee Camp's brilliant. Naomi Caravani is very funny. Oh God, what's the other girl's name? I've forgotten her name now. Yeah, 3 of the 4 of them I think are good. The other guy, he's not my cup of tea. He keeps yelling at the screen like this. Why are you talking like that? Yeah, so yeah, that's my thoughts on Redacted tonight. 3 of them I think are great, and the other guy, the way he talks really annoys me. But then there were a few people like that. It doesn't really mean that I don't disagree with it. He's actually probably a really nice guy and what have you, but the way he talks annoys me. There's an RT presenter as well, a young lady on RT, who's, you know, she does some great work, but the way she talks, it's like nails on a chalkboard. And I know there's people there in the chat now going, oh, he must be talking about Rachel Blevins. Yes, I am. Her voice is just, yeah. So that was my thoughts on Redacted now. I know that wasn't a Reddit question, but favourite British food? Is steak British? Steak and chips? Steak and chips? That's not British, is it? Yeah, steak. My favourite food. I don't eat it very often anymore, though. That's the one thing about, you know, trying to be a good person. You can't eat too much meat. Mind you, I fought better for it. PM me knees with hat. Says. PM me knees with hat. Says, hi Gordon, do you think what we've seen so far from the establishment is as bad? Oh, I've already read that question. The answer was no, I don't think we've even seen close to how bad things are going to get. Natalie McGill. Somebody just said Snorky 2K. Thank you. Yeah, she's great. The 3 of them are, but the other guy, I can't remember the guy's name now. The way he talks, just the way he delivers things, it gets to me. So yeah, but Redacted Tonight is great. Okay, how long are we going? Hour and 35 minutes. What I'm going to do, let's go over to the YouTube. Why are all the world governments in so-called debt, and to who is that debt owed, says Timbuktu. All the world governments are in debt because they print money, and the people who own that debt are the people that print the money. That's the debt. It's the amount of money in circulation. So when the US says it's 20 trillion in debt, just or whatever it is, it just means, hey, there's $20 trillion in circulation. That's it. MMT, baby. We're being told we can't afford nice things by people who are lying to us. The money doesn't work the way they have been telling us for years it does. All bad Gordon steak is hobbit on the environment. Luna, come on. I only have like 6 a year. If that. I think I have about 4 steaks a year now. That used to be a good week. I've really cut it down. People are so hard, you know. So, oh, steak's so bad, really bad for the environment. Fuck me, I've had about 3 in the past 12 months. That used to be a week in February. People can be like, so we've got to save the planet, and nothing short of perfection is good enough. John F. O'Donnell says, M Australia. Yeah, John F. O'Donnell, that's his name. I did know his name, it just wouldn't come to me. Natalie McGill's went out of my head as well. I think the man flu has knocked a few brain cells out of my memory banks, to be honest. Yeah, you're right. Hooter Burns. Establishment in the United States. We can't afford ponies if the rest of the world already has. That's what people in the UK were shouting when Hillary Clinton was there saying, oh, you know, you can't give anybody a pony. It's like, well, we've got what you're calling ponies. Malaysia's got what you're calling ponies. Croatia, Latvia, Lithuania. How come they can have a pony but you can't? The government are not the only entities that produce money, says producer Brannigan. I never said they were. Banks make money out of either from things like credit cards, loans, and quantitative easing. Yeah. You got to understand, B Green. B Green's just said this. I feel the same way about Jordan Chariton. He repeats himself, demands that we smash the like button and begs for money incessantly. It's a bit much. You got to understand with Jordan Chariton, what Jordan Chariton's doing is slightly different to what people like I and Jimmy and Mike are doing, and Carl and the rest of them. I hate to put myself in those categories because those guys are absolute fucking heroes, and I'm an amateur. What Jordan's doing is slightly different, B Green. And the reason he's constantly talking about money is because he's not trying to set up a YouTube channel and get it up to however many subscribers he wants to and just have him actually, you know, do something he loves and shout and scream into a YouTube, into a... That is not going to cost as much money to do as what he's doing. What he's doing is actually launching a fucking news organisation that he wants to employ reporters, you know, It needs money, and he's close to his GoFundMe goal. I think I know it was close to 50,000. So this is why he needs it. And you know what? You do too. Now I know you're trying to put Jordan there in the chat in the category that I put John F. O'Donnell in. I never said John F. O'Donnell was wrong. It was just his voice, you know. And the reason why Jordan is constantly talking about money is because he needs more than we do. He needs more than Jimmy Dore does to employ 3 or 4 people. He needs more than I do to employ me and keep my, like he says, do a coup of the status quo and do a coup of the media in America. And you know what? It needs to be done. And good luck to him. And I've seen his live stream. Caught one of his live streams a few weeks ago, and I made a point in my live stream of saying how good it was. Whether you like him or not, he's doing the bloody news right, and I'm fully behind him. Fully behind him. Trying to launch this attack on the corporate media by launching his own media organisation to do that. Fully behind him. He needs more money than we do. That's why he asked for it more. Student loan debt accounts for 10% of the US's GDP. That's some shit right there. Yeah, mystery. That is, I tell you, you can just see it, can't you? I mean, I'm no economic expert, but if ever anybody over the last year has asked me, what do you think is going to cause the next economic crash? My answer has been every time, oh, student loan debt, without a doubt. Oh, student loan debt. What do you think if the students all just, every student in America just went, nah, I'm not going to pay that back? What do you think will happen? Interesting. So no Jordan Peterson all red meat diet then. Does this turn you all right? I've always been on against an all red meat diet. Have you ever smelled somebody's breath who's on the Atkins diet? Jesus. Yeah, B Green, if his approach scares off viewers, he'll learn. Yeah. He's had his channel about the same amount of time as me. I don't know how to ask for money yet. It's a bit of inside information for you. At the end of each video, I do like on a Monday, generally on a Monday, although I didn't do any videos yesterday because I was poorly. But generally, I will set the first video I do on a Monday is my epilogue video, which is sort of the video that I do saying, you know, please subscribe, please hit the bell, blah, 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 blah. Every other video I do, I can pretty much, as soon as I hit record, I know maximum amount of times I'm going to have to redo it twice. You know, I might fuck up or say a word wrong or something like that, or watch it back, and maximum amount of times I'll have to redo it. Even if it's a 25, 30-minute video to camera with no cuts, maximum amount of times, twice. Restart and do it again twice, 3 times at the most. That epilogue video, every single time I record it, every single week, it takes me about 20 attempts. I hate doing it. And that's why. Because I hate doing it. I hate doing it. I hate asking for money. And I'm sure Jordan Chariton does too. So, you know, if he's coming across in the wrong way, that could be why. If he's coming across as somebody who's annoying you, it could be why. The reason he's annoying you could be because he feels bad asking. Just a point. I try and look at things from everybody's point of view. I'm having some chocolate. Now I'm feeling better. Luna Cosmos 90 says, not paying student loans ruins your credit and they can put your debt into collective agencies where you can't run away from it. Yeah, I know with student debt, even if you go bankrupt, they're not writing it off. I mean, do you need any further indictment that the US is an oligarchy, and that one of the things that you can't, one of the debts you can't write off through bankruptcy is a student debt? Somebody say in the chat. I haven't got that totally wrong, have I? I'm pretty sure that's right. But my point is, what if everybody who had a student loan debt just refused to pay it? Stop paying it. They couldn't throw them all in jail, so what would they do? That student loan, it's huge. It's massive. I honestly think it's going to have something to do with the next crash. Which is due. Oh, thank you, Big Green. Yeah, everybody has their different approaches. Everybody does. I think the main thing of what I'm trying to say is, even if you know, somebody isn't your cup of tea, who's in the independent media that's doing a good job, still be on their side, even if they're not your cup of tea, because they're still, you know, his content, I'm sure you'll say, is great. Back to the Reddit AMA. In UK, eating beef may be better for the environment, says Snorky2K. Their boats have to go south of Canary Islands to get fish now. They're just substituting sharks for fish and chips. In the UK, eating beef may be better for the environment. I doubt it. We ship it all in, don't we? Or most of it. This trust says we also ship in 70% of our cheese, which is a disgrace. He's a subscriber of mine, Inuma, without a doubt, because they just said, how much arse gravy have you had to wade through when you started your channel? I think the biggest obstacle I've come across really is how to. I struggled with this for quite a bit, actually, because when you get up in the morning, from first thing in the morning to the last thing you go tonight, and you're being consumed by bad news, it can really get to you, especially if you're an optimist like I am, because it really can piss all over your optimism. It took me generally what would happen is, when I would get burnt out like that, I would just disappear for 10 days and you wouldn't hear from me. But as time has gone on, I've managed to cope with it better, and because now I realise that I do wade through a lot of arse gravy with the news. There's a lot of it out there, but there's a reason I'm doing it, and it's to get to the truth, and it's to do a service that other people have neglected. Whose responsibility is they've neglected it. There is no fourth estate anymore. You know, somebody needs to stand up in the UK and do it. I don't see many instances of people who are. I certainly don't see many instances of people on YouTube from the UK doing this. The one person I knew who was doing it great, he had me on his you know, people have got lives, people have got families. It's I'm in a position where I can do it, so I will do. That's the biggest piece of arse gravy I've had to wade through with regards to the personal stuff with my channel, is actually getting used to it and realising, you know what, the news isn't all bad. It's just that I'm consumed by bad news. I've learned to pick my head up above the parapet and just look and smell the roses, and you know, and look at the sun. The go for a walk with the dog keeps me sane. I'm sure you've seen videos of mine where I've been screaming at the camera, and it's genuine. You know, I do get angry. But I can come across one of the worst stories, and within 20 minutes of walking the dog down by the river, that's it. I won't have a care in the world. So that's something I've got used to. With regards to arse gravy that's come up with me from other sources, then, you know, YouTube were the worst to start off with, because it took me 6-7 months to actually get monetized on my channel. So for those first 6 or 7 months, I was on next to nothing. I still am to a certain degree. But yeah, the answer, Enuma. How much arse gravy have I had to wade through? A lot. But I've enjoyed every minute of it. I really have. Many of the US unethical companies have majority stock ownership held by UK House of Lords members, says Snorky. Yeah. There's a great, just on top of that, the banking system in the UK is really it's really corrupt. There's some good documentaries out there that just highlight just how, I've forgotten the amount of money now that's actually in, you know, the members that get, you know, the islands of our empire, like Guernsey and Barbados, etc., etc., etc. I think Barbados is one. It's all they're all tax havens, all of them. That's pretty much all they're used for now as well. I'll draw this to a close. I think I've been going nearly 2 hours. I'll draw it to a close and. Okay. See who's in the YouTube chat. Hell. What's the matter? What's the matter? What? Gordon's rent boy days aren't quite over, says D. Martin. Yeah. Yeah. Alright, so I'm just getting down to the bottom now. Thanks for this, great chats, all stay strong, and let's do the green revolution, says Lawrence Taylor. I'll echo that, Lawrence, and I'm going to get out of here. Like I say, to the people at Reddit, thanks very much for asking me to do this. I'm honoured. Hopefully, you know, doing it this way is okay, and hopefully it's going to be good for people to watch back, because obviously the video will stay up so people can watch it back. So yeah, big thank you to them. Thanks to everybody who sent in questions. I'll go back in a few days to the Reddit thread. So if anybody wants to add any more questions that I haven't covered, then by all means. Nobody asked any questions on the integrity initiative, for instance, or very few. I think there was only one. So if anybody does want to ask anything, by all means ask them, and in a few days I'll get to them. Until then, I want to say thanks to everybody for your support, and this little dog, I think, wants to go for a walkies. Did you see a head tilt? Did you go walkies? Did you go walkies? Yeah, I think she does. Right, I'm going to get off, guys. Thanks very much. Ellie, go on, stay there. Live stream on Thursday, 9 o'clock. That'll be my normal live stream for this week, and then we'll be back to Tuesday as normal next week. Thanks to everybody for joining in, asking all the questions. Thanks for your support, and I'm going to get the hell out of here now and go and watch this State of the Union later. Take care, everyone. Peace. Thanks to everybody. Take care.